Good morning, children. Yesterday I had taken the lesson soil, so now let us continue with that. I had given a few questions to write the answers. Hope everyone has written the answers, isn't it? If you have not written, please read the lesson and write the answers to those questions. Now let us recall yesterday what we have learnt in this lesson soil. So yesterday I had told you about the natural resources, isn't it? Soil, water, etc. So soil is one of the most important natural resource, and what are the uses of soil we had learned? That is, it supports the growth of plants by holding the roots firmly and supplying water and nutrients. It is a home for many microorganisms. We also studied that soil is essential for agriculture, and agriculture provides food, clothing and shelter for all. Soil plays an important part in our life. Then I had told you about one activity. Hope everyone has collected the samples and seen it. If you have not collected, please try to collect it and complete the table 9.1. What I had shown you, you have to collect some soil samples and observe them carefully. You have to use a hand lens to examine each sample carefully. That is, you have to discuss with your friends. Are the soil samples collected by you and your friends similar? So what was that? Soil sources, that is garden soil, soil from roadside and soil from the area where construction is going on. So what type of plants or the animals are found here, and what did you observe? So we had seen that in the garden soil, grass, flowering plants, vegetables, and the animals here were ant, insects, earthworm, etc. And the observation was it was a black color soil. Next was soil from the roadside. So you can find only the grass there and ant and insects. Then the color of the soil was brown in color. Then soil where the construction is going on, you cannot see any plants nor the animals, and the soil will be sandy soil. So two more you have to find and write, I said. I think you might have written it, isn't it? Yeah. Then we had studied about the pollution, how soil is polluted. So by the polythene bags and the plastics, this will pollute the soil. What happens by this? The organisms which are living in the soil will be killed, and also by the pesticides which the farmers use to kill the pests. So this also, the use of pesticides should be minimized to avoid the soil pollution we had learned. Then we had studied about the layers of the soil. That is, we have to take a little soil and break the crumbs with your hand to powder it. Take a glass tumbler, 3/4 filled with water, and then add a handful of soil to it. Stir it well with the stick to dissolve the soil. So now, without disturbing it, you have to keep it for some time. Then you have to see the layers of the particles in the glass tumbler. This you might have done. It is easy to do it also. So what can you see? You can see the different layers of the soil. That is humus, water, clay, sand and gravel. So gravel means small pieces of stone, and humus means it is a dead and decaying matter, or all the waste, leaves, sticks and all, you can see it floating on the water here up. This is the humus. Then we had studied that soil forms the upper surface of the earth. Then due to physical and chemical weathering of rocks, it compromises of minerals, gravel, microbes, insects, decaying organic matter, that is humus, nutrients, water and air. Then how the soil formation takes place, this also we had read yesterday. Soil is the uppermost layer of the earth's surface. It is formed how? By breaking down of the rocks over thousands of years by the process of weathering. Then what is weathering also we studied. Weathering is a process of breaking down rocks into smaller particles by the action of wind and water, change in temperature and penetrating roots of plants. Then we had studied about the types of weathering. There are three types of weathering. They are physical weathering, chemical weathering, and biological weathering. Then what is physical weathering? The breaking down of big rocks into smaller sized rock particles with the help of agents like wind, water, or change in temperature. This is called as the physical weathering. Then chemical weathering means chemical weathering changes the chemical nature of the soil. So how it changes? When the rainwater mixes with the gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides in the atmosphere, it forms the acid rain. What is acid rain? The rain which is mixed with the gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, it reaches the earth. So that is called as the acid rain. When acid rain falls on the surface of the earth, it makes the soil slightly acidic. Then we had studied about the biological weathering. So what is biological weathering? The roots of the trees and the burrowing of animals inside the soil bring out about this type of weathering. So the roots of trees and plants grow through the rocks, contribute to the weathering. So here you can see it in the picture how the plants will grow on the rocks. So that is one rock that is divided into physical, chemical, and biological, I said you. In the physical weathering, wind, rain, thermal expansion and contraction, water. Then chemical weathering, water, acids and gases. Biological weathering, tree roots and lichens. Then we had said about the humus. What is humus? Humus is an organic component present in the soil, formed by the decomposition of plant materials by microorganisms present in the soil. So humus is the rotting dead matter in the soil. Then we had studied about the soil profile. So what is soil profile? The soil profile is a composition of different layers of soil in the vertical section. Each layer is different from other because of its texture, color, depth and the chemical composition. So here you can see the first layer is humus, second one is water, third one is clay, fourth one is sand and the last one is gravel. Then we had said about the horizon. What is a horizon? So each layer in the soil profile is called or defined as a horizon. Then in the A horizon, or the top is the soft porous layer which can absorb and hold more water. B horizon or the middle layer is more compact and it is harder. C is the third layer made up of small rocks. D is the bedrock, is the fourth and it is the hardest layer. So this much we had studied yesterday. Now let us continue the remaining part of the lesson. So now let us read about the factors which are affecting the soil formation. The first factor is climate, and the second one is landscape, and the third one is nature of the parent rock. So climate conditions like harsh wind, that is when wind comes fast, rainfall and the fluctuating temperature leads to the formation of cracks in the rocks. Fluctuating temperature means sometimes it will be too hot and sometimes it will be too cold, sometimes it will be rainy, like that. So like that temperature will be fluctuating, too hot, too cold or normal, like that. So this will lead to the formation of cracks in the rocks. Next one is landscape. The landscape in the hills facilitate the running down of water, thereby eroding the rocks with a more intensity and causing them to break or crack. So you already know landscape means where in the hills and all, the running down of the water, thereby the rocks will be falling down with a more intensity and there will be a crack or the break to the rocks. Then the next one is nature of the parent rock. Soil formed will have similar composition as that of the parent rock. So how the parent rock will be there, like that the soil will be formed. For example, if the parent rock has high calcium content, then the soil formed also will be rich in the calcium. So this is the nature of the parent rock. So today we have studied about factors affecting the soil formation. So what are the factors? First one is climate, second one is landscape, third one is nature of parent rock. Now let us study about the composition of the soil. So soil has four main components. One is parental material, that is clay, sand or gravel. Then the second one is water, and the third one is air present in the spaces between the soil particles, and the last one is organic matter. So here is a figure. So how much? 25% of air, 25% of water, and 45% of minerals, and 5% of organic matter is present. So this is a composition of soil. So what does the composition of the soil contains? 25% of air, 25% of water, 45% of minerals, and 5% of organic matter. Now let us study about the properties of soil. So the first property is absorption, second one is pore space, and the third one is percolation rate. So now let us take up the first property, that is the absorption. So what is absorption? The ability of a particular type of soil to absorb and retain water is called its water holding capacity. So what is absorption? The ability of the soil to absorb and retain that water, or the water holding capacity, is called as absorption. The next one is pore space. So here soil has spaces between its particles known as pore spaces. Pore spaces is very important property of the soil. So here pore spaces means they will have a space in between the particles, that is known as pore spaces, and it is very important property of the soil. The next one is percolation rate. So percolation means the movement of water through the soil. So what is percolation? Movement of water in the soil. Percolation rate is the rate or speed at which water flows through the pores in the soil. So percolation rate is the rate of speed at which water flows through the pores in the soil. So three properties we have studied, that is absorption, pore space, and percolation rate. Now next let us study. Now here there is an activity. Let us read that activity first. Okay, now let us read about the soil types, or the types of soil. As you know, weathering of rock produces small particles of various materials, and already we know that these will include sand, clay. Then the amount of sand and clay depends upon the rock from which the particles were formed, that is the parent rock. The mixture of rock particles and humus is called as the soil. Another definition for the soil is the mixture of rock particles and humus is called as the soil. Living organisms such as bacteria, plant roots, and earthworm are also important parts of any soil. So these living organisms such as bacteria, plant roots, and earthworm, these are the important parts of any soil. So the soil is classified on the basis of the proportion of particles of various sizes. If the soil contains greater proportion of big particles, it is called as sandy soil. If the proportion of fine particles is relatively higher, then it is called as the clayey soil. So how the soil is classified? The soil is classified on the basis of proportion of particles of the various sizes. It depends on the size of the rocks. If the soil contains greater proportion of big particles, it is called as the sandy soil, and if the proportion of fine particles is higher, then it is called as the clay soil. So soils are of different type because of their absorbing capacity. So why there are different types of soil? Because of their absorbing capacity, water absorbing capacity. This is because of the difference in size particles in each type of soil. So here is a picture where you can see the different types of soil. The first one is clay soil, second one is loamy soil, and the third one is sandy soil. So here these are red soil, black soil, alluvial soil, and literate soil. So now let us first read about the sandy soil. What is sandy soil? So you can see it in the picture. This is a sandy soil. What you call rethi, isn't it? That is a sandy soil. And I think in Kannada they call it as usuk. For construction of houses and all they need, you see. That is the sandy soil. Contains large coarse particles which we call sand. Sand grains form large spaces between the particles which make the sand soil very porous and cannot hold water for a long time. This soil is mainly found in the places with the warm climate such as deserts and marshy areas. So in the desert and all you might have seen this. You can see this sandy soil. Why it is found in the desert? Because where the climate, warm climates, where it is hot, it is found. It is in the desert or in the marshy areas. Then this will contain coarse particles which we call sand. So you can touch and see the sand. It will be hard. Sand grains form large spaces between the particles which makes the sandy soil very porous and cannot hold water for long. So this sandy soil cannot hold water for a long time because they form a large space between the particles. So the first type of soil which we have studied is sandy soil. So this soil is found in the places with the warm climates such as desert and the marshy areas. And sand grains form large spaces between the particles so that which makes the sandy soil very porous and they cannot hold the water for a long time, or the sandy soil cannot hold water for a long time. Then it will contain coarse particles which we called as sand. Hard. Coarse means hard particles. The next type of soil which we are going to study is clay soil. The clay soil contains larger proportion of finer particles. Clay soils contain more than 30% of fine clay particles. Clays swell and shrink as they wet and dry, effectively cultivating themselves. So here, now you can see it in the picture. This is a clay soil, isn't it? What happens is here, it consists of large proportion of finer particles. It will be very small, thin, and clay soil contains more than 30% of clay particles. And this will swell and shrink as they are wet and dry, effectively cultivating themselves. From these only we can make toys and all with the help of this clay soil, because it will be fine particles will be there. So because of that we can use it for making the toys and all. Clay particles being much smaller, packed tightly together, leaving little space for the air. So here there won't be any space for the air like sandy soil. So water can be held here in the tiny gaps between the particles of the clay. So clay soils have the less air, but they are heavy as they hold more water than the sandy soils, and this can retain the water for a long time than the sandy soil. So sandy soil cannot retain the water because of the space in between them. Here it can hold the water because it has the less air here. Now the next type of soil is the loamy soil. So the best topsoil for growing plants is the loam, or the loamy soil is a mixture of sand, clay and another type of soil particles known as silt. Silt occurs as a deposit in the river beds. The size of the silt particles is in between those of sand and clay. So what is the size of this slit? It is in between sand and clay. The loamy soil has humus in it. It has the right water holding capacity for the growth of plants. So it can hold the water. So only the plants are grown by using this loamy soil. So when the proportion of large and finer particles are equal, then that type of soil is called as the loamy soil. And the loamy soil is a mixture of slit, clay and sand, which is the best topsoil for growing the plants. So this slit, where it occurs? As the deposit in the river beds it will occur, and it is good for growing the plants. So now let us perform an activity based on the different types of soil. So now here is the activity in your textbook, page number 99, activity number 9.3. This activity is based on different types of soil. Now just now we have read about the different types of soils. Which are the different types of soil? Sandy soil, clayey soil and loamy soil. So what we studied in the sandy soil? Here it cannot hold the water for a long time because there is a space in between them is much which will not hold the water. Then clayey soil, we studied that there is a less air and it has a water holding capacity. Then we had said about the loamy soil, which is good for growing the plants. It is a mixture of both sand and clay, and it is best for growing the plants. So now based on this, see the activity. Activity 9.3. Collect samples of clay, loamy and sandy soils. You have seen already in the picture the type of soils. So you can collect the soil if you have and see it. Take a fistful of soil from one of the samples. Fistful means one hand. Remove any pebbles, rocks or grass blades from it. So what you have to remove? Small stones and all, rocks, grass, if it is there, you have to remove it. You might have seen in your home also when you are trying to plant any when you are putting any grains in the soil, what you do? First you dug it, then you remove all the particles, then you put the grains in it, and then the plant will come out. Like that only here also you have to remove the pebbles, rocks or the grass from it. Now add water drop by drop and knead the soil as in the figure 9.4. Means what? You have to put the water and with both the hands you have to try to knit it. How you do for this thing atta and all, how you knit it, like that you have to knit it. Add just enough water so that the ball can be made from it. So you have to try to make a ball out of it. But at the same time it should not be sticky. So what it should be? It shouldn't be sticky. Then next, try to make a ball from the soil on a flat surface. Roll this ball into a cylinder. So this you can see in your textbook in the figure 9.4. It is given there. First you have to knit it, I said. There you have, it is shown A. Then B, what you have to do is, you have to make a ball again, isn't it? Try to make, but here from the soil on the flat surface into a cylinder shape. Then next what you have to do is try to make a ball from this soil on a flat surface. Roll this ball into a cylinder. Then try to make a ring from the cylinder. Repeat this activity with other samples also. Does the extent to which a soil can be shaped indicate its type? So what happens now, taking all the samples, that is clay soil, loamy soil and sandy soil, you have to make the balls and you have to make the like toy and all. Usually children will play at home, isn't it? With the mud and all you all make the things. Earlier they used to do this. Nowadays they are not doing, but still you can take the mud and try to do it. So they make the animals and all with that. So now among these three soils, from which soil you are able to do or you are able to make the toys, you have to see it. So here try to make a ring from this cylinder. Repeat this activity with other samples also. Does the extent to which a soil can be shaped indicate its type? So which type of soil is good for making, or which soil is used for making this toys, pots, statues and all, you have to see. Can you suggest which type of soil would be the best for making pots, toys and statues? So can you tell me? Yeah. Which soil? It will be a clay soil because it is having the water holding capacity. So this type of soil is used for making the pots, toys and the statues. You can do it at home and try to do it. So today we have studied, today's class we have studied about types of soil, isn't it? In detail we have studied the top types of soil through the activity. Hope everyone has understood, and what is told you please try to do this. and see your observations. So after this you'll be having few questions to answer. So you read the questions and answer the questions. Okay, the remaining lesson I'll continue it in the next class. Thank you.